The first one is some general items such as swing time and your cleaver speed. Cleaver speed came out as 109.8 on the average in our calculation. So that means this is close to 110, which is elite man's average. So considering your status as a low handicap amateur, this is actually pretty good. So the elite men include tour professionals, college players, and some teaching professionals. So and then both the actual speed and then the speed that normalized to your body height, both at the elite men's average. The swing time is less than 1,000 millisecond. So elite men's average is a slight over 1,000. So you're a bit shorter than that. But I want you to shorten the swing time to less than 900. So in other words, you have to make backswing a bit faster, if possible. A faster backswing actually does a lot of positive things. So it's contrary to common belief, but when you have slow backswing, you can introduce all sorts of things. Imagine you're walking. If your walking speed is reasonable, then you don't have much lateral motion. But when you walk slowly, then actually you are introducing a lot of lateral motion. So that's the main problem in the elderly gait, because they don't have enough speed, so they start introducing a lot of unnecessary movements. That actually causes a lot of trouble. In golfing, the same thing. When you have a reasonable speed, then you can automatically eliminate a lot of unnecessary movements. So imagine the first generation computer game was breaking blocks. So you have blocks here, and then the ball is moving, and they're hitting the block and coming back. So you're moving the pedal, right? When the speed is reasonable, then all you do is just move it and then hit, and then move it and hit. But if it's slow, what happens is you have two choices. Either just wait until it starts coming back and then move it to the spot, or you expect the location and then go there and then wait until it comes. So then you have different choices. And then, so the acceleration deceleration pattern is not smooth, but rather you wait and then try to do this, or move on early and then you have hesitation here. So when the motion becomes a bit slower than optimal, then you have different movements, unnecessary movements introduced. So generally, when your backswing speed is a bit faster and optimal, then you can automatically eliminate a lot of things. And also, in the backswing, you're swinging in the opposite direction. Then the direction changes. So the opposite motion before the main motion is called the counter movement. The meaning of counter movement is they have many important meanings, but more than anything, the quality of the backswing actually determines what happens in the downswing. So the purpose of backswing is not just to go to a certain position, but the quality of backswing actually determines the quality of downswing. So then you have to use this counter movement well to generate all the benefits at the beginning of the downswing. So I generally promote a bit faster backswing, okay, than slower backswing. Now, so if you reduce the time to slight less than 900, for that you have to have a little bit of trigger motion at the beginning. So using that, you can have active backswing instead of just going here. So in order to speed up the backswing, then you have to introduce a little bit of trigger motion at the beginning of the backswing. But still, this is not slow compared to the elite men's average. But you need to speed the backswing up a little bit. And also, so this is the cleaver speed.
Is the elite, are they a little faster or are they a little slower?
Slower than you.
They're a little slower than I am.
But you want to go a bit even faster. So recently, actually yesterday, I had two professional players. They were both around 900 or slightly less. And then if you look at the shape of this clever speed graph here, it's a bit jerky because we don't filter the clever speed data. So, so let's say this is the top of backswing. This is the beginning of the backswing. And then if you draw a line in the middle here, the peak occurs on the right side, which is good. That means that initially the motion is a bit slow, but you are increasing the speed. The peak occurs about here. Then from here to, it has to decrease rapidly. So you have active deceleration connected to the motion in the downswing direction. So this is actually a positive side here. But a lot of people, they reach the peak around the center here. So they have early action, but then they slow down quite a bit. But when you have a gradual motion and then really increase the speed a bit later, and then that is change, the direction changes, so you start the downswing, then you have a lot better connected transition from backswing to downswing. Then the initial condition improves with that in the downswing. So this is a positive feature here. And then this is the top view. And this large rectangle shows the swing plane, which is calculated from your club head motion. So your club head is moving toward the target, which is perfectly aligned. So on the average, the direction is 0.8 degrees inward, but it's pretty much aligned toward the target, which is good. But the smaller rectangle here is your hand motion plane. Your hand motion plane is going inward. So we have the angle gap here of about 10 degrees. So actually, this is quite inward here. Mm-hmm. And this is because of the club head position at the top. So if you go to the this view here, now everything is aligned along the swing plane here. So this straight line is the swing plane, which is calculated from the club head motion here. Then, if you look at the club head path in the backswing, it's pretty much moving along the swing plane, and it goes above. So up to this point, this is okay. This is actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. But then your club head just stops here instead of bringing it a bit more toward the swing plane. So the shallowing motion has to be done during the transition phase.
Which one? What motion?
The shallowing motion.
Shallow, okay.
The club head has to be dropped a little bit during the backswing. Mm-hmm. So then,
during the backswing.
Yeah. So your club head goes most away from the swing plane, about here. Yeah. But then by the time you reach the top of backswing, this has to be dropped a bit more so that the club shows more parallel alignment to the swing plane. Mm-hmm. So currently your swing plane is well aligned toward the target. At the top here, if the club is more aligned parallel to the swing plane, it's easy to bring this down. But if the club is located away from the swing plane, you have to do something about this. Mm-hmm. That typically what happens is, in order to bring the club down here, your hands have to travel inward. Mm-hmm. So if you drop this more, this deviation is okay here. And then if you align the club more or less parallel to the swing plane, regardless of the size of the backswing, okay, then the downswing will be a lot simpler. But because at this point here, the hands are deviated from the swing plane this much, but the club head is deviated from the swing plane this much here. So then on the way down, you have to compensate that. Yeah. And typically what happens is, unless you just use the wrist here, what happens is that the hands are pulled inward, so that the club head can move toward the target. So this is one of the the characteristics you have. So as a result, we have a large deviation here, but at late follow through here, a lot smaller deviation here. So this is not to the level you are actually creating a spiral swing path, but still you need to decrease this a bit more so that in the downswing, you don't have to intentionally pull the hands. And then the slope of the swing plane here, this is 45.8 degrees. This can go a bit steeper here, but the slope is okay. It's slightly lower than average for your height, but that's okay. Okay? And partially because you drop this quite a bit during the downswing. That's why it goes a bit flat here. But I think the slope of the swing plane is reasonable. And then the direction of the swing plane is fairly along the target line, which is good. And your hand motion plane, the slope of the hand motion plane is about 10 degrees steeper than the swing plane. This is also reasonable. So if I visualize the hand motion plane here, it's a slow. Currently, I'm running two big programs at the same time, so it's capturing the screen right now. So trajectory, and then I will visualize the hand motion here. So as you can see, on the way down, hands are moving along this line here. So the hand motion plane is steeper than the swing plane by about 10 degrees, which is normal. And then also, your hands are pretty much going continuously down toward the swing plane here. But then near the impact, you will see that the hands are moving inward. So that makes the hand motion plane inward. And then this is because of the clip head position here. So then in the backswing, maintain the backswing clip head path here, and up to this point is okay. Then at the top here, give a little bit of a layoff motion here, not to the level, it's dropped too much here. So if you bring the club head a little bit down toward the swing plane at the top, then you are in good position here.
That's what you want me to do, feel like it's more laid off.
A little bit of motion.
It kind of does this.
Yeah. So a little bit of layoff so that at the top, the club head is brought down a little bit toward the swing plane here.
Yeah.
Then it'll be perfect. But because of this, you tend to pull inward. But for the moment, your handicap is, plus handicap. So I don't know whether you really need to change this, but.
No, I mean, a little. That's why I'm just trying to get more consistent, especially with the longer clubs, because then it gets more exaggerated.
Yeah, so what happens is currently your hand motion is more inward, about 10 degrees inward. The club head is going that way. So you have this angle gap. But if you reduce this angle gap, then what happens is you just throw your hands toward the target direction, the club head will also move in that direction. So in terms of direction control, it'll be a bit easier. And particularly if you increase the backswing speed, so it's like you go away and then go this way, or move it away and then throw it this way here. So when this motion is fast enough, and then try to throw this way, this cannot go too much off the direction. Because if your intention to throw it this way here, that this motion also should stay close to that line. So that's another benefit of fast motion. You know by instinct that, okay, I have to go faster and then change the direction and throw this way, like in bowling or any motion. Usually when we try to throw, we always have opposite motion, counter movement, right? The direction of counter movement is controlled by the speed. If it's fast, but if it goes off the direction, the line, then you immediately know that, oh, this is not right. But when you go a bit slowly, then that's okay, because you will try to adjust it, on the way down. So when you have a fast motion and then throw, when in the military, when you throw a grenade, then you usually have a back here and then throw, or throw here. But this motion allows you to have better sense of direction. So what happens is when you actually speed up your backswing and hit the ball, the direction control actually improves. because it gives you a good sense of orientation of the body here. You have a sensory input come here, so go here and then throw that way. But when it goes a bit slowly, then you can go either way. So in putting the same, if you have reasonable motion back here and then let it go, that this goes along the line here. But if it's really slow, then you can go in any direction. But then you try to manipulate it on the way down. So, but purely this inward hand motion path is because of this here. So in order to bring this along the swing plane, your hand has to go a bit outward here. So here, away from the swing plane. And then once the club head, the motion direction is settled here, then you try to bring your hands inward here. So that's why the hands move inward. So other than the direction of the hand motion plane, the slope is reasonable, and then the swing plane also is well aligned toward the target line. So this is quite positive here. And then later I will show you, someone who has a fairly good swing path, and then you will be able to see what I'm basically expecting there. And then the center of mass motion here. So the red line here shows the whole body center of mass motion. So generally the motion is initially, it starts from here and then it moves away. This is toward, this is away direction. So it moves away and it goes up here. And then you reach high point around event 5, which is the end of pelvis rotation. So when the pelvis rotation is completed, there your center of mass of the body reaches the high point. And from that point on, you have a diagonally downward motion here, all the way to 8 here. At 8, what happens is in the frontal plane, the clamp aligns vertically here. So from the completion of the pelvis rotation to this position here, your center of mass moves down. However, this position is higher than this one here. But it has to go down a bit more. So in order to improve your interaction with the ground, then you have to have a more up and down motion. Now, this is against the typical belief in golf. In golf, a lot of instructors say you should not move the body up and down, or even laterally. However, so we have to get the good amount of ground reaction force from the ground. That means you have to use the ground well, particularly in the vertical direction and also in the lateral direction. In this direction, we don't have much interaction with the ground. Actually, we do, but because you are equally pushing the ground forward and backward, so they cancel each other. So we don't have a lot of body motion going in the forward or backward direction, but we should have a good lateral motion and vertical motion. Otherwise, we cannot use the ground. So particularly in the vertical direction, you should be able to drop your body a bit more so that this low point actually goes below the initial position here. When it goes below, then you will be able to push and then move it hard. That way we are interacting with the ground in the vertical direction. So if you don't move much in the vertical direction, then you don't have much interaction with the ground. We also need to move in the horizontal direction reasonably to have the horizontal interaction with the ground. So what I see here is that you need to move the center of mass down more and then push.
Lower, like squat, and then...
No, it's not a squat. You just let the body drop. So that actually comes from good push from this side here. During the backswing, you have a good push the ground, and then your body moves up, and then after that, just let it drop. Right. It's not intentional squatting here. Okay. Then you lose the timing. So just a kick and then let it drop. Then what happens is the knee will be bent. Then you will be able to easily kick the ground with the leg. So push and drop and then kick. Push, drop, and push. Or push, unweight, and push. So in the vertical direction, by letting the body drop here, And then by slowing down the downward motion, you're actually generating good amount of force against the ground instead of intentionally try to squat down. Okay? So you don't need to intentionally try to lower your body, but rather, if the good push, let it drop. If you don't push the ground hard, then automatically your body drops. At some point, in order to stop that, you're pushing the ground with the left leg. Then in the downswing, you'll have good push to the ground. So it's like a stepping action, almost stepping action. Push and then push and push and then push. But this is the difference between the golf swing and then stepping motion is that in stepping, when you have a left leg in front, then your right arm is in front. So you have the opposite motion going on in stepping. But in a golf swing, the same side goes up here and kick and up here. So that's the only difference. But basically, it's very similar to just repeating the steps. When you have this motion, push and then kick, push, drop, and kick, then you'll have a lot better interaction with the ground. But that requires a little bit of practice, but for that you need to develop good rhythm, okay, using the steps. This is the pelvis motion here, pelvis motion. So the lower one shows a rotational motion of the pelvis. The upper one shows a translational motion of the pelvis. Now, rotation. So you have a rotation to the right to this point, and then the rotation to the left to this point. This is the impact. And then, so these are men's average, elite men's average. You're right at the elite men's average. And then also the rotation to the right and the rotation to the left at impact are well balanced. Okay, so you're not turning too much this side, not too much this side. When you turn this way too much, then tend to have not enough rotation this way. But you are well balanced. Your rotation of the pelvis is well balanced here. And then the blue line shows a lateral tilt. So the right side, left side, they can move up and down here. It's a lateral tilt. So as the backswing progresses, it goes down here. That means your left side is lower. So it actually shows a left tilt. Left side is lower than the right side. You are moving the right side up and left side is going down here. As a result, you have this pattern here. And then from here, change of direction here. Now the motion, the difference decreases here. And eventually, once you pass this point here, the left side becomes higher than the right side. So this is good. Okay, this pattern is good. Continuous left tilt up to this point, and then the right tilt up to this point. So at impact, your left hip is actually higher than the right hip. That's what it means here. This is good. Now, the upper one, it shows a translational motion. The green one is away and toward motion. Okay, so initially your pelvis is moving away from the target, about this much, and then coming back to the initial position. This is called the recentering. Recentering. So shift away followed by recentering. Then once the pelvis rotation is completed here, then you have a continuous motion toward the target. This pattern is also really good. And then the blue one here is the up and down motion of the pelvis. So the pelvis goes down up to this point. It starts moving upward here, right? And generally, so this is continuous downward motion and then upward motion. But one thing I would like to see here is, so this continues down here, and then you want to have a more active push upward. So here, so the curve goes down here, and then later you have more sharp increase in the vertical position. That means that you have to push the ground good in the downswing using the left leg. Then it'll go this way and then rapidly going up here. But this is a bit smooth here. that means you're lacking the lead leg action
Gotcha.
in the downstream. Later, we'll probably see this in the force pattern. And then the red line is forward backward motion. This is also perfect. Very good here. So initially it stays here, but then the pelvis moves forward, backward, and forward again. And this is a good pattern here. So actually, I was a bit surprised to see your patterns here. In several areas, you have really good patterns. So in terms of the rotational motion, in terms of the translational motion, I see really good patterns here, except this one here. Go down and then try to push hard so that you have a quick rise in the pelvis here. So this is what we need to pay attention to.
So that looks late, that the left leg is not pushing hard enough early. It's
So
just late.
so the rise is kind of smooth here,
Gotcha.
but it has to go down and then
Okay.
like a gas price. You know, it slowly goes down here and then goes up here. And then this is the X factor, which shows the separation between your shoulders and the hips here. So when the shoulder and hips are pretty much parallel to each other about here, so these lines are parallel to each other, then the X factor is 0. But then when the shoulder turns more, then you have positive value here. So from this point on, shoulder turns more, and it keeps going to about this position here. And then from here, the slope changes. That means you have a two-stage motion in the backswing. It's not a continuous motion all the way to here. But up to this point, you have fairly consistent rotation here. Then from this point on, you cannot maintain this motion, so then the arms goes up, and from there you have a two-stage motion here.
That's where this is coming from, the shift, the drift at the top. That's what I wanted to see. Yeah.
So from here to here, particularly in this section here, the slope is fairly flat here. That means the separation is not continuously happening like this here. So initially the separation was happening fast here, but once you pass this point, it slows down.
Almost stalls.
Yeah, and then once you go here, then this increases here. So this is the end of pelvis rotation. So then the pelvis starts rotating in the opposite direction. So this is a pelvis transition point. From here to top of backswing, which is a club transition, here you have a bit more increase here, but the slope changes. That means that basically the backswing is not a continuous simple motion, but rather you have two-stage motion here. And then turn up to this point, and then you have another motion going on here.
So this stops almost, or
It's
that separation?
It's still moving. It's still moving, but it's a lot slower than the previous one here. So up to this point, you see the shoulder rotates quite a bit, and then from there on, not much increase in the shoulder motion. And then shoulder stays there, and your pelvis is now rotating in the opposite direction. As a result, you have a bit more increase here. But I want to see a continuous increase all the way.
So that yellow, the shoulders continue to rotate, not stall.
So in order to have a continuous increase pattern, that you have to use the momentum. When you just try to turn up to this point, and then this much happens, then you always have a change in the slope. But what if you have a good active motion here, and then all the way here in one action? Then using the momentum, if you continue that motion, the shoulders keep turning this way while your pelvis is turning this way, then you have a continuous separation all the way to a top of backswing. So again, that means you need to increase the backswing speed a bit more. When the backswing goes a bit faster, then using the momentum, you can continue that motion. So you can have a one-piece backswing rather than a two-step backswing here. So and then also the image you want to develop is, in the backswing, it's not about your body goes to a certain position and then here. Rather, if you want to move the end of the club around your body, so let's say you want to move the club to this position here. If you pay attention to motion of the club head to that position here, in one action here, then the motion becomes a lot smoother and then continuous motion. But you are more focusing on the body motion here and then instead of. So if you use the trigger motion from here, in one action you go to this position, then the backswing motion becomes a lot simpler than one continuous motion. So I see a slight change in the motion in the trunk so that you have this change in slope here. So basically here we have a slight change in the body motion here.
Yeah.
So it's now the shoulders are slowed down here, and then you try to use the wrist. Now, the main thing is the kinematic sequence here. Kinematic sequence. So there are three kinematic sequences in golf swing: backswing sequence, transition sequence, and the downswing sequence. And then, in my understanding, the transition sequence is the most important one because it shows how you are transitioning from backswing to downswing. And mechanically speaking, if the transition is done really well, then you can save a lot of effort, but still generate good amount of muscle forces, and you can also develop early acceleration of the body, so you can also develop good speed. Now, the backswing sequence here, the pelvis angular velocity peak occurs about here. So it's gradually increasing in the backswing direction. The red line is the pelvis, gradually increasing, and that peak occurs here. This is a bit too late. And then the green line is the thorax. The thorax reaches pretty much the peak value about here. The blue is a bit jerky here, but the blue is the shoulders. The shoulders reach the peak value here. So the thorax and shoulders reach the peak value here early. Your pelvis reaches the peak value about here. It's quite late. So
That's
these
the
are reversed.
That's the speed?
Angular velocity, rotational velocity.
Of the pelvis.
Yeah. Pelvis, and then green is the thorax, blue is the shoulders. And then so the thorax and the shoulders reach peak angular velocity earlier here, and then the pelvis is here. But usually, pelvis and thorax occur almost at the same time, and then shoulder a bit later than that. So the pelvis angular velocity has to happen a bit earlier here. Again, if you speed up the backswing a bit more, you have a one-piece continuous motion to the top, then these will be automatically adjusted. So to me, your backswing is a bit slow for you. So, if we increase your backswing a bit more, then we'll see some positive effects with that. And then the arms reach peak angular velocity here, and then the club reaches peak angular velocity here. So this is okay. Now in the transition here, so if the blue line goes straight like this here, then the red line and then green line, these are switched actually. So here, normally the pelvis turns first, and then the thorax, and then the shoulders here. But these are pretty much clustered here. And then, interestingly, the thorax goes earlier than the pelvis here. So this is slightly reversed.
So the pelvis is has to start earlier. It has to work earlier.
So you have a central to a peripheral sequence, particularly in the transition sequence. So your pelvis turns.
This is the transition. That's transition.
Yeah, this is
that
transition.
one's at transition.
It's blowed up here. So.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. All
but
right.
pretty much, I say your pelvis and thorax are turning, transitioning almost at the same time.
Yeah, you'd like to see
It's clustered, and then the shoulders, the arms, and the club here. So this can be separated more. So the pelvis first and then thorax if you have good momentum here. So again, the potential benefit of a bit faster backswing is when you have faster backswing, because the upper body still wants to go that way, and then your pelvis is turning in the opposite direction.
All right.
But automatically you have
So
more,
I have it where this is almost starting first, almost at the same time.
almost your thorax and pelvis are
Almost,
turning at the
right,
same
instead
time.
of it going, instead of the pelvis starting. leading
So,
way,
so
gotcha.
that means you can benefit from a bit faster backswing. Then these will automatically change. So it's called the momentum strategy. In the backswing, if you speed up your backswing a bit more here, then automatically, because of the momentum, you have a sequential transitions. And then in the downswing again, this is based on the timing of the this angular velocities here, and generally the peak occurs about here, so the timing is okay. Timing is good. When the club is pretty much aligned vertically, then you have peak angular velocities here. And then they will start slowing down toward the impact. Okay? And then with that, this pink line is the wrist angular velocity. And then this keeps increasing here to this level here. And then this is the club angular velocity. But here, if you increase this a bit more, then this will also go more here. So at this stage, at impact, the angular velocity of club depends on the angular velocity in the wrist complex. So in the wrist complex, you have a wrist motion like this, and also you have pronation, supination motion. This is actually quite important. When you use this motion where throw, then you can have active wrist complex motion here. But if you increase this a bit more, then this will go up. And then here, if you look at this pattern here, so when the pink line is negative, that means it's a cocking. Yeah? When it's a positive, it's an uncocking. Then uncocking starts about here. You can delay this a bit more. So usually, when golfers delay the uncocking, then the uncocking starts about here. So during the downswing, early part of downswing, once the downswing starts, those who generate good speed, they have even more cocking after that. So it's called the down cocking. But the cocking velocity increases for a while, and then you start the uncocking. Then you will have a lot more delayed uncocking. Then the wrist angular velocity increases rapidly and goes high up here. Then this also goes up here. So here we see, somewhat early release here, or you're not delaying the release enough. I put this way here. It's partially because your club head stays high up here. When you have good wrist complex motion, this has to be dropped during the transition phase. The club head should be dropped so that you can use this motion here. But if it's away from the target, it's hard to use this motion here.
It's going this way instead of that. Yeah.
So that's again potentially where you can improve. So let's try to bring the club head a bit down closer to the swing plane. That'll automatically give you some positive aspect. And then,
But not at transition on the backswing. During the backswing, bringing it down?
during the backswing, you can drop it a bit more here. So if you follow a bit the slipper path here, and you let it go enough, then automatically it's coming down here. So this motion will give you automatically, the club head going down more toward the swing plane. So no need to just hold it there here. So in your case, if you let the club head go a bit more, then you may automatically be able to bring it down more, because in the backswing, the club head path is above the swing plane going up here. But when you maintain that path and then go a bit more, then it's more dropping toward the swing plane here. But when you have faster backswing, with the faster backswing, if you try to keep this away from this, by instinct, your body won't allow you to do that when you're faster backswing. Because a faster backswing, and then you have to eventually reverse the direction and then throw this way here. So when we have a faster backswing and a swing, this is well connected, then automatically you are adjusting the club head position here. But when this goes a bit slower here, then you can do different things. So this will change to a certain extent by simply speeding up your backswing a bit more. So we need to actually play with that a little bit on the simulator. So just to try to increase the backswing speed a bit more and see what happens. And then, so the timing of the peak, these are okay, but I see a tendency of slightly early release or not enough delayed release here. Yeah, that's what I see here. And then a bit clustered transition of the trunk segments here in the transition. But by having faster backswing, the timing of the pelvis peak angular velocity will be adjusted in the backswing. You will also have more separation here between the pelvis and thorax automatically when you have a bit faster backswing. So sometimes you see all these symptoms in the downswing, but the cure may be in the backswing. So if you need to do something about the swing, then always the earlier the better, because then this is continuous motion. So when something happens here, it'll affect the rest of the motion. So if you change certain things early on, then that will affect the rest here. And then I want to try speeding up the backswing more than anything here. Okay. And then, so this is how you interact with the ground. And so these arrows are the forces acting on your body. This is the one acting on the trail foot. This is the force acting on the leader foot. And the middle one is that force, sum of these two. And then the red dot here is the center of mass of the body. Now the middle graph shows the force magnitude. And the red line is the total force. Blue is the force acting on the trail side. Green is the force acting on the leader side here. Let's first look at the force here. So in the backswing, about here you have the maximum total force here. And then the unit here is body weight. So this is relative to body weight. Initially, your force here, total force, is equal to body weight. So when you're just standing on the ground, then your body weight and the ground reaction force are equal to each other in magnitude. And then during the backswing, as the backswing progresses, you will push the ground with the right leg actively. So you have more force acting on the right leg here, the less on the left leg. So more force right and the less on the left here. But then this force here is above the body weight here. Okay? The red line is above the body weight. So this is called active push. So you are pushing more than your body weight. So then you add the intentional push, right? But then this has to go a bit more. Okay, more push here, so that the red line should go a bit higher. And also the difference between these two should be increased. That you have more push from the leader side at the trail side, and then less push from the leader side. So this difference has to increase. And then, so when you have active push here, then your backswing speed increases. Because when you get more force from the ground, then it causes a torque. With the torque, the motion becomes faster. So these are the same thing. When you try to have a faster backswing, that means you have to push the ground more. So if you increase this, then automatically the backswing becomes faster.
And where is that in the swing? Right there.
Here.
Where that was when parallel to the ground. Okay.
2 is when the club is parallel to the ground here,
Okay.
about here.
Okay.
Although the timing is a bit early. Usually this has to happen, the red line reaches peak around the 2, but the maximum force acting on the trail side should be slightly after 2 here. But now here, once you pass this point, then now the force becomes less than the body weight here, right? So it's below the body weight line. This is called the unweighting. So when you have a good push here, then you will have more unweighting here. But because this push is not much, so you don't have much unweighting here. So you have this hesitation here. Now, this is the key. Remember, toward the end, we had a two-stage motion.
Yeah.
And then so if you have a good push here, then you will have more unweighting here, and it should be continuous unweighting all the way to top of backswing. However, it's a kind of hesitation here.
Yeah.
Not so much unweighting here, and then pretty much going back to the body weight, and then you try to unweight again. So here you have a separation. You have disconnect here from the backswing motion to the downswing motion. So remember, we need to drop the body, allow the body drop. So it's not intentional squatting down, but rather it's a kick from this kick, and then let it drop. And because of the drop, your left knee will be bent, okay? And with that, you will be able to easily push here. But because you have sort of hesitation here, in terms of unweighting here, then you have to unweight again here. This unweighting is also not that much. Then if your unweighting is not much, then your push won't be that much here.
With the elite players, the amateurs, and the pros, how much unweighting?
It can be 25% unweighting.
And that is what, 5?
This is 15.
15?
No, so less than 15. It's got to be probably maybe 10%.
10%, and they're doing 20 to 25. Okay.
So, in order to have a good push, you see now your peak force here is less than the man's average here. In order to have a good push here, you have to have a good unweighting before that. In order to have a good unweighting, you have to have a good push here. So that's why we have good push in the trail side, and then good push in the lead side. Between these pushes, we automatically have a good unweighting. Mm-hmm. So the beginning is this one here. When you have an active push in the backswing, that automatically gives a better unweighting here. When you have good unweighting, then you will be able to push hard here. But if you don't have much unweighting, okay, it's hard to generate good push here. So, again, we see a hesitation here. This should be just continuous unweighting all the way to the top of action here. And then with that unweighting, you will have a good push. When you unweight, then the body drops, and then push is coming from slowing down of the downward motion. It's not from intentional effort to jump, but rather when your body moves down, in order to slow this down, you have to push the ground. So maximum force actually comes from your effort to slow down the downward motion. How do we know here? If we look at the center of mass position here, so this is the high position here. The center of mass is at the high position. Then when the maximum force is generated here, the center of mass is actually at the low point here. So your center of mass is moving downward. Center of mass shows the overall motion of the body. So the center of mass is moving down. And then at the bottom, you have a maximum force here. That means that force is coming from slowing down of the downward motion. So when something moves from here to here, on the way down, initially it accelerates. It gets faster, but later it slows down. And then finally, change the direction here. So in order to slow down here, you must have force going this way. So by slowing down the downward motion, you're actually generating larger force here. So the maximum force occurs to slow down the downward motion here. And then once it hits the low point, then the center of mass starts moving up. And then with that, actually the force decreases here. But So in order to increase this force here, so because you don't have much force here, that's why in terms of pelvis motion, at the end, it was kind of smooth upward motion instead of
Yeah.
active motion here. It's because of this force here. This is not enough. But in order to push hard, before that, you should have a good unrating here. But this unrating should be continuous here from this push here. So then you just, all you need to pay attention to is a good push and the push. Push and the push. In between, you automatically have unrating. So don't try to intentionally generate this unrating. But if you have a good push, then you have good unrating automatically. Push to the right side and the push the left side here. Push and the push. And then because we have two legs, by alternating the legs, we're generating this push and this push, and in between we automatically have a good unrating. So having two legs is probably the best gift we got from God. By alternating this, we can do a lot of things. And particularly load onto this side and unload here. And by loading onto this side, you can push the ground hard. So in order to push well on this side, you have to unload this well during the backswing. And then after that, by letting the body drop and then push here, you are loading onto this side. With that, the force increases quite a bit. And with this push, you can have extra booster. So actually speed, you can have additional speed by pushing the ground hard and then turn. So in terms of force, again, I want to see a more active push here and the continuous unrating here. With that good amount of unrating around the top of action, then you will be able to push the ground hard here. Now, the lower one is called the moment arm here. So imagine here's a bolt here, and then you're using a wrench and then try to rotate this. Then this distance is a moment arm here. So the center of mass serves as a center of rotation, and the force which causes rotation is the ground reaction force here. So this separation here. So this is where the bolt is, and then the arrow shows where your hand is. So this distance is the moment arm here. And then when you multiply moment arm and the force here, then it becomes a torque. So this is torque you generate in the frontal plane to generate this rotation by using the ground. Okay? Now, so pretty much here during the backswing, the force is fairly upright here. And then about here, the force passes through the center of mass here. That means that you have no momentum here because the force is passing through the center of rotation. So no momentum and no torque here. This timing is a bit delayed here. And then by the time you reach end of pelvis rotation, so pelvis rotation is completed, then this force needs to incline a bit more. If you incline this force a bit more, then you have longer momentum, right? And then, so this is the top of backswing. Top of backswing. So the force inclines more, so the separation increases, so you have this momentum here. This times this force is still in the unrating phase, but this momentum and this force gives this torque here. So at the beginning, we are generating reasonable amount of torque here. Okay, and then during the downswing, the momentum increases here, and then you reach the peak torque here. So up until this point is reasonable, but then after that, the momentum and torque decreases rapidly here. So from this point on, the torque decreases rapidly, and then near the impact, the torque goes in the opposite direction. That means you are turning this way, but torque is acting in this direction. This is at impact. At impact, what happens is the force. This force is passing the left side of the center of mass here. So the torque is generated in the opposite direction. So here's the bolt, and then you are pushing this way, so the torque is clockwise. While you are turning this way, the torque is acting in the opposite direction. So you have to minimize this. It can be close to zero, but you can minimize this. So what I see is that if you increase the backswing speed, in general, but still in general, your pattern is reasonable, except in terms of torque is pretty good, but the unrating is what I don't like here. Yeah.
Okay.
So you need to increase more vertical interaction with the ground, having continuous unrating here, then you will be able to push this harder. Then the momentum still, you can maintain the momentum a bit longer, then torque will be also a bit bigger here toward the end of the backswing. And particularly what this is important is when you push the ground hard here, then it moves your body eventually upward. With that, you can have a clean impact here because it secures this distance here.
Yeah, and I don't have that knee. My left knee buckle.
And then you tend to hit the ground.
Yeah, fat.
Yeah. During the data collection, I saw that.
Yeah.
It's because you don't have enough push here. When you have good push here, then the body is moving this way here so that you can maintain this distance and then let the club head go through here. But because you don't have the vertical force in the downswing is a bit weak, so you're just dropping it here. But if you have a good push and then swing through, then you can have even faster speed. So the unrating and then good push, this is probably the main thing you need to focus on. But again, the whole thing starts with active push in the backswing here. That's also tied with the backswing speed. If you increase the backswing speed and then well connected and then go down here, then a lot of things will automatically adjust. So that's the main thing I see. And then at this point, let me show you another pattern, someone else who can inspire you a little bit. So you'll see some similarities and also some differences. The top view here, first timing here. In terms of overall timing, is similar to yours. And he has good peak value a bit later than you. So initially the motion can be a bit slower here, but then he's speeding up the club head. And then so as a result, he goes above the man's average here. And then top view, fairly parallel to each other. It's because when you go to this view here, now the club head goes above the swing plane and then it's looping here, but it's coming down. So let's go back here. So about here, you will see that these are similarly deviated from the swing plane. So it's a lot simpler. And then this is when the club is deviated from the swing plane the most here. But now it's decreasing to this position here. So during the backswing, is bringing this a bit closer to the swing plane. This is natural pattern here. And then from here, simply bring this down here. So this is gradually coming down toward the swing plane here. And then the late follow-through phases. So this deviation are fairly balanced here.
How about his hand path?
And then also the hand path, you will like it. So go up here. So it's the hands are gradually coming down here, touch the swing plane here. It pretty much stays there. instead of going out
and in.
and then bringing it here. Because the club head is out here. In order to bring the club head toward the swing plane,
Yeah,
later your hand has to come closer to your body. So we see that. Pelvis pattern. This is very similar to your pattern. Very similar to your pattern. Reasonably balanced here, and then good lateral tilt here. Now forward, backward, forward, the same, and then shift away, recenter, and then good shift toward the target. So these are the same. Now this blue line, so it goes down and then it's steeper here when it goes up here. Yours was a bit smooth here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, right.
Yeah, that means that this means that he pushes the ground well in the downswing, so that the pelvis is moving up with the sharp increase in the position. That's the only difference, pretty much. And then he pretty much maintains a continuous increase all the way here.
That's what?
X factor. And then kinematic sequence. So he's reaching peak angular velocity about here. It's more toward the center of the backswing. And then, so pelvis, thorax, and the shoulders pretty much at the same time here. And then arms and club here. Now the transition sequence, is a good separated sequential transition. And then also the wrist here shows a more cocking angular velocity. And then uncocking occurs here, almost at 7. 7 is when the lead arm is paired to the ground in the frontal view. So it's quite delayed here. And then from there, the wrist angular velocity increases rapidly and exceeds this level here. And then the club angular velocity also exceeds this level here. So this is the only difference, pretty much. And then you had the tendency of a clustered transition, but he has a well separated transition. And then, if you go to the way he interacts with the ground, so this is the maximum force he generates. That this is way above the body weight here. So he has more push here. And then this force is also passing through the right hip joint. But in your case, the force was a bit inward here. So you're pushing the ground equally laterally, so the force more goes this way here. But he is more pushing the ground along the leg line here. So the force is, this force is passing through the hip joint. And then good push. And after that, you see this. So the unrating starts from here. And the continuous unrating all the way to this here. So at the top of backswing, moment time is long here, and then generates good amount of torque. And then the maximum force here is about almost close to 1.9 times the body weight. And then, so this is a lot higher than yours. With this push, he's maintaining good distance here, and then swing through. So, the main thing I see here is that if you increase the backswing speed, then this push will be solved. You will also have a continuous unrating here, no problem. And that this will also allow you to push the ground harder in the downswing. So a good starting point will be having a bit faster backswing. So he has many similarities to your pattern, but also some better patterns.
Yes.
So you are inspired.
That transition is really good.
Yeah. It's because he's using, initially it's a bit slow. His motion is a bit slow initially, but
And then he speeds it up.
pick up the speed, so as if he's angry.
Yeah.
So emphasize the later part of the backswing. So that is better connected to the downswing. So now you have a good idea of what should be done.
Yes.
Okay, so any questions?
No, I don't think so. That's covered. I had questions, down here on my phone, and I think you've answered all of them. Let me just double check.